We now call the meeting of the Authority Board to order. We ask that you give your attention to this short video. Terry Ann, please do the video.
This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Public speakers will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The chair will call upon public speakers at the appropriate time. Each public speaker is requested to state their name and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Public speakers who wish to speak in person should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Public speakers participating by Zoom who are wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of any written correspondence would like to speak during the meeting, they should raise their hand or submit a public speaker card. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Terry Ann, could you please conduct roll?
Commissioner Alt-Stepper for Armstrong.
Here.
Commissioner Arnrich.
Here.
Commissioner Bernal.
Here.
Commissioner Burgess.
Here.
Commissioner Carlson.
Here.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Commissioner / Representative Nowak.
Here.
Commissioner Obringer. Here. Commissioner Xavier.
Here.
Vice Chair G.
Here.
Chair Meadows.
Here.
Representative Anderson.
Here.
Representative Alt-Wren for Foley.
Here.
Representative Worth.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum and everyone present.
Thank you, Terry Ann. The next item on the agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance. Please mute your mics if attending remotely. Please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Terry Ann, do we have any written public comment?
We have not received any written public comment.
Is there anyone wishing to speak during public comment on an item that is not part of the agenda? If so, please submit a public speaker card or raise your virtual hand, and/or staff will call upon you. Terry Ann, do we have any in-person or remote comments?
We do not have any public comment.
That concludes public comment. We do not have any presentation this evening. We'll now move to the next item on the agenda, the consent calendar. Are there any changes or comments from the Authority Board? Does anybody wish to pull an item? Is there anyone wishing to speak during public comment? Please submit a speaker card or raise your virtual hand, and the staff or I will call upon you. Terry Ann, do we have any written or in-person or remote comments?
We do not have any public comment.
Do I have a motion and second?
Move the consent calendar.
Second. Second.
Terry Ann, could you do roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Arnrich.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernal.
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess.
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson.
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak.
Yes.
Commissioner Obringer.
Yes.
Commissioner Alt-Stepper. Yes. Commissioner Xavier.
Aye.
Vice Chair G.
Yes.
Chair Meadows.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Terry Ann. First item, regular calendar. The first item is an action item from the Administration and Project Committee to be presented by Andy Dillard, seeking approval to award construction contract number 728 with DC Electric Group, and authorize the executive director to designate or designee to enter in agreements and execute purchase orders to procure equipment and software for the Town of Danville Intelligent Transportation Systems Traffic Signal Monitorization Project.
Thank you, Chair Meadows. Good evening, Commissioners. It's my pleasure to present this item to you this evening to approve a construction contract and authorize procurement of equipment for the Town of Danville ITS Traffic Signal Modernization Project. So as you know, this is the first CCTA managed smart signals project in the county. It's one of 4. We have, of course, our larger county smart signals project, and we currently have 3 federal earmark projects that CCTA will be AAAing, advertise, awarding, and administering. This project is one, of course, near and dear to my heart, as I started on the other side of this project at the Town of Danville, so very happy to see it come to fruition here. This project, it includes upgrading 26 signals along the Sycamore Valley Camino Tasajera corridor in the Town of Danville. It includes video detection systems, advanced traffic signal cabinets, and also intersection analytics that go along with that, and then a few Ethernet communication switches. In total, this project includes 78 video detection cameras. As I mentioned, the 2 ATC traffic signal cabinets, those will be located at Danville's largest intersection, which is Camino Tasajera and Crow Canyon Road, and then also the Sycamore Valley Camino Ramon intersection, which is the intersection in front of the Sycamore Valley Park and Ride. In total, this project is a $1.29 million project, of which there's $1 million in the community project funding, congressional directed spending, federal earmark. Here's a look at the corridor. It's basically 25 intersections that's east of the I-680 corridor down Sycamore Valley and Camino Tas and Crow Canyon. And then there's one intersection up in the top left corner that's near the town offices at the intersection of El Cerro and Lagonda. So you've seen this slide many times before. This is basically the suite of elements that compose the countywide project, as well as the Danville earmark, Concord earmark, and La Miranda earmark projects. The bottom 3 elements in this screen are the focus of the Danville earmark. The very bottom left corner there, that's a exhibit of the no traffic video detection systems that are the primary element of this project. As far as advertisement goes, we released in October. Bid submissions were due in December. Tonight before you is a contract award. Pending approval this evening, we will proceed on to our pre-construction meeting, followed by start of construction in March. So in total, we received 6 responsive bids, with the low bid from DC Electric Group. Their main office is based in Cotati, but they also have an office here in Pacheco. And so as I mentioned, we received 6 qualifying bids, which is hopefully a good sign for the projects that will be following behind this one. The other element to this project and approval before you this evening is the authorization to procure equipment. So as part of the authorization from Caltrans, we received a cost effectiveness of public interest finding, which allows CCTA to procure their equipment and provide it as agency furnished. We do this because we want to make sure that the equipment we're providing for the project is in line with Danville's current traffic signal network equipment and software. And concurrently, while this project was out to bid, staff gathered specifications. We negotiated prices with the vendors and discussed availability so we could better gauge our construction schedule. In total, the equipment and authorization we're requesting this evening is for $790,625. So as I mentioned, overall schedule, construction will start in the wintertime, of course, in 2026, hopefully by mid-March, once we procure the equipment. The cameras will go up first. There's a shorter lead time on those, followed by the traffic signal cabinets, which will take a little bit longer. That will probably be early to midsummer before those are installed. And then we'll be able to close out the project, hopefully by the early fall of '26. So again, the action before you is approval of Resolution 2603P, which will award the construction contract number 728 to DC Electric Group for a total construction allotment of $235,602, which includes a 15% contingency. This will authorize the executive director or designee to also shift funds between construction allotment categories as long as the expenditures do not exceed the total amount. And finally, authorize the executive director or designee into agreements and execute purchase orders with various vendors for the said amount of $790,625 to procure the equipment and software. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Andy. Are there any comments from the authority board? I have a question. Vice Chair Gee?
Andy, thank you very much. My question for you is, are we, as CCTA staff, going to have some kind of a formalized lessons learned? I guess I want to say, as this progresses, because we have so much more of it coming up, I want to make sure that we all get to take maximum advantage of what you learn as you go along the way, given how much more is coming down the pike. So I guess I'm curious as to whether you have all thought about, some kind of formalized system of, lessons learned.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Gee. So that's an excellent question. So first, I'll speak informally to that. So as we've been developing the countywide smart signal projects, and as we've been moving through the design of this project, we've been discussing on how to improve and to be more efficient with how we manage these. But on the formal level, that's something that we haven't talked about to this point, but we can certainly, we'd be happy to bring a report back to the board once this project is completed to share that with the board with lessons learned.
Yeah, I think it would, has the potential to have real value, especially as we move into Concord and La Miranda and the other parts of the county. As you build that data over each contract, it seems like that could be very, very helpful.
Commissioner Obringer?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. And I did read through the staff report, and I did hear this is the first of several projects. And so I think the context that I'm missing, because I know this goes all the way back to the town of Danville getting awarded the federal grant. So could you just help me understand what the process is for a city or a region to be able to participate in this? Do they have to get a federal grant? And then what is the value add that CCTA is providing as opposed to a city or region going it alone?
Great, thanks for the question, Commissioner Obringer. So, very good question. So, with this Danville earmark, the earmark was actually pursued by the town, and it was initially awarded to the town. Once it was awarded, CCTA approached the town to offer their assistance. We didn't reach out to them, they reached out to us. And that's when I was sitting in my other seat, so I remember the day I got the call. So, and we were certainly happy to do that. In the instance of the La Miranda and Concord earmarks, I believe that was more of a collaboration with CCTA to help procure those earmarks, as well as the countywide signal project, which of course CCTA was the lead applicant for the CMAQ OBAG funds. So it's kind of a hybrid of those things. But I think with the countywide success of that project and then the La Marinda and Concord projects, I think that's what led CCTA to approach the town and say, hey, we have these other projects, why don't we, we have this effort, we can help you deliver this federal project. And the value it adds definitely for the locals is that because these are federalized, there's a bigger lift to deliver these projects. So there's just a ton of value for CCTA to assist with that. And again, the countywide project, is basically, it encompasses everything that you see in these earmark projects. It's all basically the same thing that we're trying to do and accomplish. So from an efficiency standpoint, it's kind of really a no-brainer for what CCTA is doing. And I think the locals are very appreciative of the staff level of the help.
Thank you.
Just Commissioner Oberbringer, if I could just add, because the Danville, the Concord, and even Pittsburgh got one. We just recently got another one for Antioch and Oakley, and then we also got the one for La Marinda. And all of these are community benefit projects from Mark DeSaulnier, from Congressman Mark DeSaulnier. So Congressman Mark DeSaulnier approached CCTA about what are some of the things you're seeing in terms of priorities, and so we started discussing to him, safety at intersections, and started talking to him about these smart signals. And Congressman DeSaulnier has been very, very passionate about these projects and these earmarks, these community benefit projects. And so he's been actually working with CCTA to kind of prioritize and how we can benefit all the communities within his region, within his district, for these smart signal community benefit projects. And so so we're currently talking to Mark right now in terms of what the next, project is going to look like. And so we were literally in DC last week actually having that conversation to kind of see what's going to be the next city that would be interested in doing these smart signal projects. So it's really Congressman Mark DeSaulnier. I mean, we really need to give a shout out to him because he's the one that's been really pushing and sponsoring, all of these projects. So.
Commissioner Arnrich?
Thank you. Andy, it's great to see this going forward. As Danville, we just happen to be a little further ahead because we got the grant earlier. But what's really important is CCTA's role is that they are designing, and they're going to make sure that all these systems, if we do these all individually, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have 19 different systems that don't talk to each other. So that's really important. Secondly is the design team moves from project to project to project. So the lessons learned in all of those. We also, it's a little easier in our community because we had some empty conduits that got put in a long time ago. So to deploy it, we can get to it faster, and we're going to be the guinea pig. So whatever we figure out in that, and Andy and the team. So yeah, and that's okay. But I know, the theory, you got one throat to choke. I know where he sits. I think this is really a great project. And I don't think, as a CTA board members, we ever thought it would actually go this fast to get this many cities and actually make this connectivity. This was all theory. So this is really cool, and Mark DeSaulnier needs a huge credit for this. But this is probably one of the best technology things we have on the table that's real. And I'd be glad to make a motion when you get to it.
Representative Anderson?
Thank you. So Andy, obviously this is in collaboration with the town of Danville. Each city sort of has their own standards of hours of construction, especially, these are all going into major roads. So are we going to let each city sort of set the construction hours so as to not conflict with school drop-offs? And again, I'm not just saying it because I go through the big intersection multiple times a day and down Sycamore Valley Road and Camino Tasajera, but the reality is that a construction project timed at the wrong time would be a nightmare for any city.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Anderson, for the question. So all these projects will follow the city's construction guidelines and rules and regulations for hours of work, no question. So even though CCTA is managing and administering the project, it's still the locals' final call on when and where we can work. So special events, all those things. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other comments? Is there any public comments on this item? Mr. Olson.
Yes, Bruce Olson.
Thank you. Is this working?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Bruce Olson, East County's Mr. Bicycle. Contra Costa County's bicycle community wishes to be assured that this traffic signal detection system is responsive to bicycles. Not only this Danville project, but throughout the entire county as you build it out. The bicyclist does not want to have to get off the bicycle and go over to the signal pole and push the pedestrian button. We expect that most of these, the construction of these intersections are going to be on arterial streets, and most already have bicycle lanes anyway. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Any other public comments?
We have no additional public comment.
Commissioner Stepper.
I just wanted to follow up what Bruce Olson was saying, because, you know, the first part of it is that it's going to detect all modes for pedestrians, bicycles, and vehicles, and we have long wanted to measure those separately for safety and to go towards a zero vision, so thank you.
Commissioner Honors, do we have a motion?
I'm sorry, she had a comment.
I think you had a comment to respond, so I wanted to give you a chance.
So I was happy for the question, because that is a very important part of the video detection systems. Bikes, pedestrians, vehicles, these are advanced traffic video and radar detection systems. So not only do they do all that and detect, but they also give you the information and the data back, so you can analyze near miss, collisions, speeds, volumes, all those things. So that's just another benefit of these systems. So, yeah.
Good point. Very good point.
Let's try it again.
Yeah, I would be delighted to move item number 8A as presented here tonight.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Terry Ann, could you conduct roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Arnridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Bernal,
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess,
Aye.
Commissioner Carlson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Noack,
Yes?
Commissioner Obringer,
Yes.
Commissioner Alt-Stepper,
Yes.
Commissioner Xavier,
Aye.
Vice Chair G,
Yes.
Chair Meadows.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Terry Ann. The next item is an action item to be presented by Tim, seeking approval to award agreement number 739 with Fair and Peers to provide professional services for the development of the Transportation Expenditure Plan and approve Resolution 26-04-P to appropriate Measure J reserve funds for the development of a new Transportation Expenditure Plan. Mr. Hale.
Thank you, Chair Meadows. Very excited to present this item to all of you tonight. In November, at the Authority Board meeting, we brought to you a team to be able to move and develop the Transportation Expenditure Plan, and you authorized staff to begin negotiations of that contract with the Fair and Peers team, which was a team of Fair and Peers, but also multiple subconsultants, which I'll get into the details here in a minute. And we've completed those negotiations and developed this very robust contract to really focus on really three major deliverables as part of the TEP development. So the team is really comprised of Fair and Peers. That's really going to be doing the overall program management, as well as some of the graphics design, some of the public engagement outreach, and it'll be very supported by multiple subconsultants. One of those is Civic Edge. Civic Edge is going to be really focused on the public engagement and more of the extensive, going into the public and doing the focus groups and also doing the pop-ups and the surveys and all those things, and really work with Fair and Peers and Civic Edge to be able to deliver on those things. Fair and Peers is really going to be helping and supporting more on the stakeholder engagement, in support with the staff of CCTA. And the other subconsultants are InfoStrategies, which will be helping and supporting a lot of the governance discussions that we're going to be having as part of the TEP, including policy development, as well as ordinances and also implementation guides as we think about, updating our local agency implementation guide, updating the growth management program, as well as updating our growth management plan implementation guide. So all of those things are kind of in that governance, implementation guide, and policy development. Communication strategy is really going to be led by Clifford Moss and Tommy Clifford. Also in support there is going to be Alex Evans, as you're all familiar with Alex Evans, and so the two of them are going to be really supporting the communication strategy of the TEP and the TEP development, as well as the messaging. And then kind of focusing on the actual deliverables themselves. There's really going to be three major deliverables. There's the actual TEP, which will be focused on really the TEP that goes in the voter information guide. So something that like I learned or we learned in the 2020 measure was you have to pay for every single page you put in the voter information guide. And so you don't necessarily want to develop a 36, 40-page transportation expenditure plan. So we need to develop a really concise transportation expenditure plan, and then a lot of the ordinances, a lot of the policies, all those things, all of the kind of the meat of the policy making, decision making, and the processes would then would go into the ordinance that would be approved by the board when we approve the TEP. The other major deliverable is the associated ordinances and implementation guides to be able to support the actual TEP and implementation of the TEP to make sure we have a successful performance-based program. And that's another big part of this overall scope is as we're evaluating the projects and the programs to make sure that each of the projects and programs in the TEP are being really justified through KPIs, goals, metrics. And so there's a lot of time and effort that's put into evaluating, how we're going to evaluate the projects, how we're going to screen the projects, how we're going to select the projects and programs that will get funded by the TEP. And then also we're going to develop essentially like a trade-off tool to be able to demonstrate to you, demonstrate to the public, and demonstrate to stakeholders about, when you invest in one thing, what are those trade-offs between some of the other things that you may want to invest with the TEP, because there's only going to be a limited amount of funds, and so we need to make sure we're making the best performance-based kind of decisions in terms of funding the TEP itself. Another big part of this in terms of the expenditure plan is also reviewing the governance of CCTA. And looking at our role of the agency and in relative to the future of transportation, particularly around things like the shared mobility hubs like we've talked about, bike share programs, implementation of, transit programs and student transit programs and those types of things, expansion of 511, so all of those things. And so really kind of looking at governance as part of the expenditure plan. So all of those things are built into this robust contract that is going to be supported by this team. Now, the contract itself will be a 2-year overall contract. So there's basically broken down into 3 phases at a very high level. The first phase is going to be an extensive public engagement, really kind of the listening phase. That'll start immediately. And our goal is to have that listening phase between now and September and get into the public in terms of doing a poll, doing a survey, doing pop-ups, doing community events and community meetings, and then taking that information, that listening, and starting to develop the draft TEP. And that draft TEP, we would start developing that starting later this year. And then as SB 63 kind of runs its course, we can kind of feed that into the development of the framework, the development of the TEP. And then the next phase of listening would be spring or summer of next year to be able to really confirm the expenditure plan priorities that we've been listening, making sure that we captured those priorities from the public that we got from the first phase of listening. And then the goal is to have the TEP actually approved by November of 2027. So the overall contract is a 2-year contract to get us to the end of 2027, basically. Once the TEP is approved, depending on that's the direction and the consideration of the board, and in order to get that approval, just as a reminder to everyone, we do have to get resolutions of support from the majority of the cities with the majority of the population. So there's an extensive effort to really garner coalition building and getting that support behind the transportation expenditure plan. So that way the board here will feel confident that this is the right TEP to bring to the voters, and then also bring to the Board of Supervisors, who ultimately gives us the approval to place it on the ballot. Now, the funding for this contract is coming out of the Measure J reserves. And so if you remember, about 3 years ago, we created this Measure J Reserves program. And so essentially what we started doing was we took the mid-year budget, so the actual sales tax at the mid-year budget, and compared that to what we actually projected. And so that true-up amount, based on what we projected and the actual, those amounts got put into a reserve. And so that accumulated roughly about $38 million in reserves over the last 3 years. And Brian and the finance team have done an excellent job of categorizing those reserves relative to how and where they would go in the expenditure plan. So we have a very detailed matrix in terms of like how much of those reserves would go to, program 14 for Express Bus or for the ferry program, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that has been accounted for. And what we have done is, because of this program reserve, and I will say this has been very intentional, is that we've been able to generate earned interest on that reserve. And so the intent is to fund this contract from the earned interest on the reserves. There's currently $2.8 million in reserves today. And so we would be issuing a limited notice proceed to the Fair and Piers teams for roughly $2.5 million. And then the goal is as we receive more earned interest on the reserves starting this year and the following year and the following year after that, Brian and team and I have coordinated, and we're anticipating that we'll be able to fund this entire effort from the earned interest in terms of cash flow, right, over the next like 2 to 3 years. And so we're asking the board to approve a resolution. This is the first time that the board has ever taken an action to release funds from this reserves program. And I think this is one of the eligible activities based on that reserve policy, which is attached to the staff report, to fund this contract. And based on that funding, we will be able to continue and hopefully maintain the program level funding that's been allocated in the matrix of the funding that we've been keeping track of. And at least that's the goal. What we're asking the board, though, I'm giving you a lot of detail about how we would manage the project, how we manage the cash flow, how we manage the contract, but in general, we're asking the board to release the equivalent amount of the contract amount of the reserves to fund this contract. In terms of the management relative to earned interest and principal, that's something that Brian and I will be very closely watching in terms of managing this contract. The next step is, I just want to kind of share a little bit of just some of the next costs that are going to be, that we have to anticipate. I've been talking with AMRA, and we will need legal support, obviously for the TEP process. So her and I have been talking about getting a task order in place to be able to support the development of these ordinances and the legal support work that would help. And so that's going to be a cost. And so I don't have an estimate for you right now, but it's in the 6-digit realm. And then the other big cost that's coming down the pipeline, which we won't have a good estimate on that until probably summer of 2028, is the actual cost to place the measure on the ballot. So in 2016, that cost was roughly $1.5 million. In 2020, because we had to pay for 36 pages in the voter information guide, which we will never do again, that cost was $2.7 million. And so, so we're anticipating, somewhere in the ballpark of, $1.5 to $2 million. And again, I think we're anticipating we'll be able to pay that amount through the earned interest on that third year beyond the life of this contract, right? Because there's going to be the $2.8 million for earned interest is basically as of June 30th of 2025. So there's got this fiscal year, the next fiscal year, and then another fiscal year beyond that. So there's going to be 3 more, anticipated earned interest earnings on the reserve. And as Brian and I have been talking about, we've been anticipating that we'll be able to cash flow, this entire process through the earned interest. So I want to be want to be very transparent in terms of how we're funding this contract, because I know there's a lot of eyes on this reserve, a lot of stakeholders are interested in this money, and so I want to be really transparent in terms of how we're managing these funds, how we plan on funding this contract, and I think this contract ultimately is really at the benefit of everyone, because without the TEP and without this contract, we're not going to move the needle towards getting to an approved TEP, which ultimately extends everyone's funding. So. That concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions that you may have about the item.
Thank you, Tim. Are there any questions or comments from the Authority Board? Commissioner Onrich?
Thanks, Tim. I think this is probably one of the most intelligent solutions that we've had. And I'm going all the way back when we did Measure J. And I think it's much more transparent than it was in the past, and a very clever way to not touch the principal funding. The other thing is, if you look in Fear and Pure's contract, they list all the top people that are working on this. There's some pretty impressive names on there. And I think having all of those consultants under the control of one is based on our experiences of the past. And those independent entities had conflicts. So I think this sets us on a path for a greater chance of high-level success. And by the way, if we don't do this, shut the doors, quit fixing roads, quit fixing all projects, our county will be completely out. This is a renewal. It's a responsibility we have. We still personally have to go out, form committees, raise money for the campaign and things like that. But as an agency, I think this is probably one of the more responsible outlines and strategy that we've set forward, which I'm really confident this time. I'm confident in the way we're approaching it. I'm confident in the intelligence of what we're trying to do. We're staying in our lane. We're trying to keep it simple and make sure that a policy is backed up by all those actions necessary. So I think this is really, really a great solution. So thank you to everybody that's worked on this.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yeah, one, I love the simplicity factor because that's the thing I hated the last time. So I think that's super important. And hate is probably the accurate word for that. So on the earned interest, by the time the funds are released for this, they will have come out of earned interest. So even though it's only 2.8 now, before the money's actually released, that you expect that cash flow to be in.
Yeah, I mean, that's the, I mean, we're giving Fair and Peers like limited notice proceeds. So we're managing the contract based on the available funds.
great.
So that's, we're going to be very, very fiscally responsible in
Okay.
terms of like how we do this.
Yeah, I was just,
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that, because that was not clear in the actual recommendation. And the third thing is, I just, we're talking about going out right away to the public. And I think I've said this to you many times, but it is concerning because MTC will be, not the Citizens Initiative will be out for the SB 63 ballot. And I don't want the public to get confused thinking that the measure they're voting on potentially in November is what's delivering what our consultants are out there talking about now. And so, because otherwise they will be thinking, why am I doing this the second time 2 years from now? So we've got to figure out a way that communication is either really clear or it's very controlled so that there's no confusion and neither ballot measure is impacted. Let's put it that way.
Just on that point, Commissioner Nowak, I think the team's very aware of that. There's already been meetings and briefings with the consultant for SB 63. So I think to your point, like it's going to be really key both for the success of the extension of our measure as well as SB 63, that the message is coordinated and can complement each other and not conflicting with each other. So agreed.
Supervisor Burgess?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree, Sue. I think particularly in these times of uncertainty, misinformation, lack of trust, to keep it as simple for people to understand what we're doing is really important. One of the things, I know we're talking about kind of the process and who's doing what, how we're paying for it, but one thing that's been brought up to me is the concern about how the RPTAs are participating versus the cities and the concerns about regional projects. Can you talk a little bit about that? It was said, it was told to me, and I wanted to clarify, that folks like Transplan wouldn't be leaning in as much as the cities. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we actually went to the PMA, the Public Managers Association. We talked to all the city managers in January, like 2 weeks ago. I guess we are still in January. Time flies, but I think the city managers, when we discussed, well, let me take a step back. So in the contract, there's 4 groups, right? 4 groups to engage with. There's the board, which is you, there's the cities, there's the stakeholders, and then there's the public. Again, trying to keep things really simple in terms of like, these are the groups that we have to engage and garner support. So with the team and with the city managers, you know, we went to talk to the PMA and we said, hey, like, what do you think is the best way to engage with the cities? You know, and, you know, what was some of the lessons learned that you all got in 2016 and 2020? And they specifically said, they raised concerns in terms of how we were engaging with the RTPCs and not directly with the cities. And the city managers were basically saying, hey, like, we really felt we were late to the table on the last one, and because you guys were engaging with the RTPCs so much. And so knowing that the cities are really, we all know in 2020, we didn't necessarily have this big hoorah, you know, behind all the local jurisdictions and the cities and that coalition building. And so I think strategically, the team has been really thinking about what's the best way to engage with the cities. And we feel like engaging directly with the city managers, you know, at the PMA, we feel like that's going to be the venue or the place that we're going to be really getting that input from the cities and the local jurisdictions and really work with the city managers, rather than really working through the RTPCs. Because when we're working through the RTPCs, there's a gap because we're talking to staff and we're assuming staff is briefing the city managers, which in some cases is not happening. And so there's a massive gap in terms of communication, and then the city managers were late to the table. So like, and so we're briefing, you know, all of you, the electeds, and we're briefing the staff. And so there's just a gap there in terms of like the decision-making that's happening at the local city level, which is really what you all serve, you know? And so I think, so the city managers unanimously said that they would like to be directly involved in the process and not necessarily like go through the RTPCs. Now, the RTPCs will still be involved. It's like this, RTPCs will be brought into the discussion and briefed as needed as we go through the process. But I think at the November board workshop, you know, I think we heard it loud and clear that we need to bring everyone to the table and really get communication across the board with everyone at the table. And I think, you know, going to 4 RTPCs and the subregions, like not everyone's able to hear everyone, not everyone's able to see everything. And so what we feel like, making sure that everyone feels heard, everyone's at the table, that we're going to be coordinating directly with all 19 cities at the same time in the same venue, in the same conversation, and the county, to be able to build this transportation expenditure plan.
Yeah, I'm concerned about kind of the regional view when Transplant gets together. You know, we definitely represent the areas that we represent, but we're also thinking on a regional level. And I know that each city has a responsibility to think about their city. And I'll just say, unincorporated Contra Costa, if it was a city, would be the largest city geographically and population-wise. So, you know, I'm concerned about the regional effects because unincorporated Contra Costa is so spread out that will the cities do that? So I hope it's not an either or. I think it should be and.
Yeah, I think consulting the RTPCs, I think when we are dealing with more of these like sub-regional things, but the county's at the table too. I mean, the county attends the PMA. Mm-hmm. You know, and you know, I've been talking with Monica, we've been making sure they've been installed, John Kopchick's involved, and so we've been making sure that leadership at the county level is also at the table as well, at the PMA level. So I think it's, you know, and I think what we're trying to accomplish is really making sure that like, if you have everyone at the table, then that entire subregion is also at the table as well. You know, so it's, because I think we've already been kind of strategizing in terms of like the May board workshop about how we want to get everyone to the table. And so the thought process and the goal would be that we would invite every RTPC member to that board workshop. Every elected official would get invited to that board workshop.
I also think it's important because people kind of transition in and out of those committees. And particularly if you're new, understanding the hat that you're wearing as a regional member. I think it would be great for us to kind of help people understand that regional filter that they need to be approaching, because what happens at the Concord Naval Weapons Station, affects what happens in East County. What happens on Vasco Road affects in other places, what happens in Kirker Pass or Highway 24 or, out in West County. So I just want to make sure that, and I totally support the cities, but I do want this regional vision to be included as an and, not an or. Thank you.
Commissioner Stepper?
Thank you. I'll be very brief, but I was on the first, I guess David, who ran the first one when I came on board. So we've been through one of these. It's a little easier when you're presenting to them. You're having the fourth bore of the tunnel. It's pretty visual. And so I'm very concerned that the program be more sophisticated this time than the last one that was here. Because these are, we're a highly technical area. The AI is taking over everything right now. And beyond that, the kind of vehicles that you see every year when you go to the transportation agencies, people want to know that they're going to see the sophistication, technology, and speed of the vehicles, how it's going to make a difference to them, whether it's a bike or whether it's a car or whatever vehicle you're on. So I'm concerned about the program. I love the way you presented that it would be much briefer on the ballot because people just don't read all that. and the interest and funding this, because when I read this yesterday, all I could think of was how much this was costing versus when I looked up some old programs from SWAT from way back when. And this is taking care of it in such a really creative way. So thank you very much for that. I think that people will be very responsive to that. Thank you.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yeah, thank you. I want to echo what Diane said about it being both and. So we got a lot of firepower here with the consultants. So we should go out to the RTPCs and see what those different regional needs are, and each region is different. And we should also talk to the city managers, and one thing that's really important, we've all said this before, is return to source. Local streets and roads, or maybe you use it for bicycles in your city. But with gas tax revenues going down because everybody's transitioning to zero-emission vehicles, we're going to need money to work on our PCI, on our pavement, and for other things too, in the local area. And if you can reach those cities, then you can reach the people in those cities, and those people are the voters. My second point is I want to agree with Sue. SB 63 that's coming, this is a transit measure that hopefully will be coming here in November. But when we go out for our measure, it's going to be different. It's going to include pavement. It's going to include bicycles and, safe streets for all, and a whole bunch of different things. So I think there is a way to differentiate it, but we don't want to confuse the people. So we got to keep that in mind.
Commissioner Obringer?
Thank you. So I was not on this body for the last measure, and I just remember bits and pieces of it. So it's helpful to hear from others about what has improved, over this approach. I think it would be helpful if there's some kind of like Cliff Notes version of, okay, this is how we're improving things, because when I saw the amount of money for the consultant, it gave me a little bit of pause. So I'm getting, like I said, like the context from some of the other commissioners who have more experience, but it would just be helpful for some of us who are new to better understand so we can communicate to people why this is a large investment, but a good investment. And then the other question I had in terms of categories, so was there a definition for stakeholder versus public? Because, a member of the public would consider themselves a stakeholder. So how are you differentiating between those categories?
No, that's a good question, Commissioner Obringer. I think the public is really the general public. That's really what we're kind of really focusing on, is that kind of boots on the ground, public engagement, with the constituents. Stakeholders are going to be, it's going to be managed probably, and we're still trying to strategize exactly how we're going to do this, but I think, we're thinking that you have like NGOs, you have businesses, you have labor, you've got the CBOs, the transit operators, all of these are just to keep it really, again, we're trying to keep things simple. So it's like we have 4 groups, right? Board, city, stakeholders, public. And the stakeholder is really kind of a catch-all, right, for all the other folks that we really need to engage with, that are going to help guide, the investments, into the measure. And so, and each of those groups will have, again, we got to strategize on this, but each of these groups will have different venues, different meetings, different engagement structures, that we have to really work with the team. Once we get the team on board and engaged, we will be coming back. I mean, yeah, I just want to be clear, like, we're going to be talking about this every single month for the next 2 years, and so meetings are going to start getting long. We're going to be here for a long time. We're going to be talking about policy. We're going to be talking about all this stuff, engagement. Like, the rubber's going to hit the road here pretty quick. So I think, once we get this team engaged, the next step is to come to you with a full engagement strategy and go into the details of exactly all of these things, right? And so, I mean, if you look at the scope, there's probably 2,000 slides that have to be prepared in the scope, and so there's a long road ahead of us. It's going to be a lot of time. And we plan to bring all this back to you, to get input from you every step of the way, and so this kind of 4-group pyramid that we have set up in this engagement process, we want to confirm that this is the right process with all of you, and so I think, but public is general public, and then stakeholders is kind of, all these other stakeholder groups that are going to have interest in the expenditure plan and the funding.
Thank you. And just one quick follow-up. Again, I think it would be really helpful because I understand the expectation is going to be, if we put this together, we should be out advocating in our communities. But I really don't know, as I'm sitting here right now, how my city, voted last time, right? Like, it would be just, I think, really helpful to understand, where did the previous measure succeed? Where did it fail? So that we have that baseline of understanding about how our community felt, and that'll help us approach our advocacy.
Yeah, we, just to be clear, we plan to bring all that back to the board, like lessons learned. I mean, there's a lot to learn from the 16 measure. There's a lot to learn from the 2020 measure. And so, yeah, we'll bring all this data. I mean, I think one thing I want you to be really clear on is this is going to be a very data-driven approach, and so the key here is to really show many slides with lots of data into your eyeballs, or like glazed over, I'm just joking. But I think the idea here is to really show you lots of data and show you where we're going and get input from you on where we're going on every step of the way, so.
Commissioner Burnell.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the presentation, Tim. So a couple questions. One is, so this is being funded in total by the reserve, but the interest is going to pay for it over time. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's the plan. And it sounds like it's going to be pretty tight between all the different consultants to keep it pacing with the interest, correct? I mean,
So we have, right now there's $2 million, so we're confident we'll be able to fund the first year of this contract, with what's already in there, with what was already in the earned interest. So there'll be another payment of earned interest that gets dropped in there sometime like June or July of this year, and after we get this full fiscal year of earned interest on the reserves. And that's over $1 million. And that'll be, we're anticipating that'll be roughly about $1.5 million or so. That's been kind of what we've been seeing in general. And so as the invoices are coming in from the consultant, the goal is to cash flow those invoices and pay those invoices from the earned interest. So we're far enough ahead in the curve to be able to support, those invoices that are going to get paid through the whole process.
does this contract have any contingency built into it?
Yeah, no, there's no contingency built into the contract. So like we wanted to make it, if anything changes, we want to make sure this board knows about it. So there's no contingency. So if we have to do an amendment or anything like that, I wanted to make sure that you are fully aware about this contract. Like if there is a situation where cash flow is not meeting and we start looking at it and we're like, oh, we may have to dip into the principal, you will all be the first to know. Like, I will bring an item back and we will talk about it. So like, again, I know this reserve is very sensitive to all of you and to our stakeholders, and we are going to be extremely transparent in terms of how we manage this contract, so I just want to make that really clear.
And we've all seen these contracts kind of creep, right? They get bigger. So I guess my question is, who's ultimately responsible? Obviously you are, but how is this going to be managed within CCTA?
So I'm personally going to manage this contract. So you can hold me responsible for everything on it. So obviously the team is going to be, this is a large supported team effort, within CCTA. There's going to be tons of people involved, from the planning team, the projects team, the finance team, the admin team, everyone's going to be involved. This is a huge undertaking for our team, and so yeah, I mean, I will be managing the contract, reviewing invoices, but there are going to be components of this, for example, like public engagement. I'll make sure Lindy reviews that part of the invoice, et cetera, and so it's going to be a staff undertaking, to make sure that everything stays consistent, and making sure, again, to manage the scope creep, because I mean, and again, if there's scope creep, then again, there'll be like, if there's an amendment, we'll need an amendment, and that's why I didn't want to add contingency, because again, I want everything to be very, very transparent.
Sure. And although I know you're really busy, I think that's the right answer, that you're ultimately responsible, because this has got to be really, you got to know what's going on with it. And I guess my final comment is just, I agree with the comment about the PMA, the city managers, and the RTPCs both being involved, because city managers come and go, get busy, focus on other things. So it's not a guarantee just because they're being told, what's happening, that they're going to be able to translate that to councils and to people that need to know.
Yeah, and again, we'll bring all this back to the board for engagement. I think in terms of how and when we're going to engage the RTPCs. I 100% agree with all of you on the and. It's not an or. Okay, I think the question is how do we engage the RTPCs and when do we engage with the RTPCs? And so because and we can come up with scenarios and we can talk about that, as we kind of get into the details. So
I agree with engaging with both. I mean, we need to have the sub-regional projects in there, or I don't believe it'll go. But the cities are going to want their little bits too. Talking about the contract amount, I understand, wanting to spend all the money wisely. But if we don't do this and we don't spend it, and we don't spend it and do it right, we won't even be sitting here in a few years. So, I mean, it has to, in my mind, it has to be done right, and we need to put the resources into it that will allow us to be successful in the next ballot measure. So, any other Representative Worth?
Thank you, sir. First of all, I think this is an excellent approach, and I think Tim's leadership to manage this process is going to be so invaluable. The different dynamics right now is we are looking at a situation where the revenue flow will stop if we can't renew this measure. So it's very different dynamics than previously when we were looking at adding on to an existing tax. So I think that the engagement of various parties, particularly the PMA and other groups that really understand how vital this is to our county, are going to be really important. The other piece that I think is extremely important to engage is our other JPA colleagues in the county, and those are the transit agencies. They are going to be really, including Bart here, in terms of, when you look at the voters, Bart consistently polls very positively in this county, as well as the, things like we've talked about, school transportation, home transportation, seniors. So I think early on also engaging with our colleagues on the transit agencies will be really vital in terms of putting together not only first, the polling to really test what the voters are want to support, and second of all, the engagement in developing the programs. Because we realized when we were headed out to the retreat in Oakley in the morning and seeing the massive traffic going the other way, that we're not going to be widening lanes. We're going to be looking at alternative ways of moving people, for example, using transit. And so I think this is a great approach, and I know everybody is looking forward to really rallying to support this effort collectively.
Commissioner Honrich?
I would just add to that conversation, having been through Measure J, then 2 rounds, so this would be the 4th one. To be honest, in the last couple, we were hijacked. We were hijacked by groups, organizations, I'm not going to name them, because we lost focus with the people who count, which are the voters. The groups aren't the voters, they're just people. They have self-interest, it's money. A very large organization hijacked us. We had a consultant that was representing both. And it just took us, and we spent too much time. So all of what's organized in this, that's not really out there, is to avoid that from happening. Because all that counts is getting people to clearly understand what we're doing. We're renewing this. Here's what the value propositions everybody will share, and there's regional equity and all of those things. And then somebody votes for it. All those other entities, we have to listen to them and go through them. We have to balance that, and that's our job. Because we have to have something, because we have to approve it ultimately. The county says, yeah, you can put it on the ballot. It has to be something that the voters will approve. If we make all of our agencies happy and they don't vote. I mean, they represent, a raindrop relative to the voting population. So it's really important, and I think what's strategized here is that we recognize what we made mistakes last time. Not that there weren't great ideas and things, we just didn't get it communicated to the voters. So this one, we should all remember that. Remember, the RTCPs are sitting right here. There are 2 of you from each RTCP. I'm the only one that I represent the 19 cities. So we have that representation. We have that structure of how they do that. But we lost a little bit of the connection directly with the voters. So I think we have a strategy that is better focused this time. And I think as a board, I think we all get that. And I think some of those other entities realize what happened in the past. So I think our goals were all headed towards the same direction. There will be different ways. We need to make sure there's a little flexibility in the future. We were pretty tight this time. You can't do this, you can't do that. Because 25 years from now, I don't know what's going to be out there. Do we want to make there shall only be this type of vehicle, there only should be, you got to be careful in doing that. And I think that's a value proposition that we saw from the voters. Unless it's a cul-de-cut tunnel, that's forever. But on some of these other things, and the way with technology is moving, the voters need to hear that because they see it every day. So I think, again, we're headed the right direction. We have the right leadership. We have a consultant team that is really smart. And again, because they're not independently working against each other, they're all controlled by one entity. So the messaging, our board has to get to that point of having one clear, strong message that shows that voter value proposition.
Commissioner Nowak?
So I don't want to be a pessimist or anything, but
But you are.
but I'm going to be just now, only because I want there to be enough flexibility in thought process, because I am hoping SB 63 passes in November, but to the extent it doesn't, this measure could change drastically, right? And so I just want everybody to sort of be aware of this, to not get so focused on what it's going to do, because it may have to change based on what happens. By this November, we will know one way or the other, and that may change what we're looking at here. So I don't think that was totally pessimistic, but it's just a slight bit. You're laughing at me.
We'll know in 9 months, a week.
Yeah, so, anyway, I just want to make sure that we don't get so wed to certain ideas beforehand, and then all of a sudden our world changes, and we're going to have to rethink stuff, so.
Any other comments or questions? Sure.
No, I couldn't see it. It's off.
Terry Hand, do we have any public comments?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Terry Hand, could you conduct roll call vote, please?
Sorry, who was the second? Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Arnrich,
Aye.
Commissioner Bernal,
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess, Commissioner Carlson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak,
Yes.
Commissioner Obringer,
Yes.
Commissioner Altstepper,
Yes.
Commissioner Xavier,
Hi.
Vice Chair G,
Yes.
Chair Meadows.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Terry Ann. Thank you, Tim, for presenting that. The next item is an action item from the Planning Committee to be presented by Matt Kelly, seeking approval to transmit an annual urban limit line policy advisory letter to all Contra Costa County jurisdictions.
Thank you, Chair Meadows. Good evening, authority members. Matt Kelly, Director of Planning for the authority. Great to be here tonight. As you know, I'm frequently up here kind of giving you guys some history on aspects of Measure J. Hopefully that helps inform what we were just talking about, a new measure, learning about what we did as part of Measure J and how we can move that into the future. I think the urban limit line is one of the, a very important component of Measure J. Certainly had the voters' attention back in 2004. So tonight I'm going to give you the item for approval on the agenda is our annual urban limit line policy advisory and the letter that we use to advise the jurisdictions about the ULL, but I'll also be providing a short update on the county's effort to update their urban limit line. So let's move through it. So just a little bit of history on the urban limit line. So as you probably all know, we started back in 1988 with Measure C, and that was our original sales tax. Then in 1990, the county enacted their Measure C, 20-year measure, which established the 65-35 urban limit line, which basically required that 65% of the county lands were to be preserved for agricultural and non-urban uses. That can be open space, parks, recreation, things like that, non-urban uses. And then they established an urban limit line beyond which point no urban uses can be designated. So that then fed into Measure J, which was adopted, as I mentioned, back in 2004. That extended Measure C, or a sales tax in Contra Costa, for 25 years. And we're approaching those 25 years in 2034, which is why we're talking about a TEP. Measure J required that all 20 jurisdictions, or at least the 19 other than the county, comply with the principles and agreements of establishing the urban limit line in order to receive the 18% of return to source funds plus 2 additional % in certain parts of the county. So that is, you have to have adopted an urban limit line to receive any return to source funds from Measure J. Then around the time, a couple of years later, before Measure J was actually implemented in 2009, the county proposed Measure L, which extended that 65-35 ordinance through 2026. And so it was a 30-year measure, required 4/5 vote of the Board of Supervisors. We've got 2 of them in here tonight. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Commissioner Anderson. We have a majority of the Board of Supervisors in the room tonight, though only 2 are technically representing, I think, the board tonight. We will, and that was to approve any changes to the ULL of more than 30 acres. Smaller changes were, approved by a vote of the board. It adopted a new, at the time, urban limit line map, which most of you are probably familiar with, and I'll show you in just a second. and established review procedures for when there is a proposed change to the urban limit line, what that review process looks like. And then there's an actual review of the measure itself, which was done in 2016. There was a one-time review as part of Measure L. And what that did is the county reviewed the measure for its capacity to accommodate the planned growth for the county. So basically, the county looked at the growth planned around the county and made sure that the current line could accommodate all of that growth, both in population and jobs. And at the time, 10 years ago, they confirmed that it would. So then Measure J, as the authority was updating the growth management program for Measure J, the ULL requirement was included in Measure J and required the cities to adopt, each city to adopt a voter-approved ULL by April of 2009, just a couple months ahead of the measure going live. So that voter-approved ULL could look different in each jurisdiction. They could either approve the MAC ULL, the mutually agreed upon countywide ULL, which wasn't chosen by our jurisdictions. What most of them went with was the adopting the county's Measure L line. So 16 of our jurisdictions adopted that under voter referendum or initiative. And 3 of our jurisdictions, Antioch, Pittsburgh, and San Ramon, adopted their own urban growth boundary. So we took those three individual lines and the county's line and kind of morphed them into this pinkish maroon form that you see there. And that's what what has basically remained unchanged since that time. So every year, because there's turnover at the cities, at the city manager level and elected officials, we like to remind staff and electeds of their responsibilities as part of the GMP and the ULL requirement. So we send a letter. It's basically the same every year. It reminds each jurisdiction what the responsibilities are, that when they are considering a change to the urban limit line, that they should request an evaluation by the authority. Basically, you send us information of the project and have us make a determination on whether it meets the requirements of the ULL or requires an adjustment. So the authority responds. In many cases, the proponent will come to our planning committee and present their case for the planning committee to hear. The criteria that is considered is whether or not the development lies fully within the ULL, whether the development involves a non-sequential or non-contiguous adjustment of 30 acres or less, or does not involve an extension or expansion of urban services, whether that be fire, sewer, water, things like that, across the ULL boundary. So if it meets those 3, then we determine that there is no ULL issue. So that's basically what the letter says. So it's just a reminder to everyone what their responsibilities are. And that is the ask tonight, that we recommend that you have staff issue the letter to all 20 jurisdictions. However, I'd also like to update you on what the county's been up to, and they probably don't need a reminder this year because it's been front and center for them because, as I mentioned earlier, the current Measure L ULL expires at the end of this year, December 31st. So last month, the county supervisors voted to place an extension of Measure L on the June 2nd ballot of this year. What that would do is extend that 6535 ordinance through December 31st of 2051, so 25 years. That maintains all the requirements related to it, the expansion, the 30-acre rule. But what it also does, it provided a mechanism for an expansion of the Byron Airport up to 500 acres or around 500 acres. And so that is kind of built in, but it does ensure that the development that goes on out there basically is there to focus on economic development and viability of the airport. So it would be a very focused expansion of the urban limit line. And there is already an urban limit line around the airport. It would just be allowed to be expanded. So it aligns ULL reviews. So I believe there's 2 reviews built into this one. And it is, instead of just saying we'll do it, at the 10-year mark, it's designed to be done around the RENA updates and updates of each city's housing elements. So there's some alignment there. And then there's a new map that has been developed. And the county did a lot of work developing this new map. They did some trimming of the urban limit line. Basically, they made sure it was matching up with existing boundaries, city boundaries, creeks, other natural or existing administrative boundaries. And that allowed them to contract the ULL by about 11,000 acres. But there were also 1,600 acres of ULL expansion, and most of that was really just to account for those minor corrections around the entirety of the county, which, equaled the 1,600 acres. So it really is a contraction. This is a black and white version of the new map. It really doesn't look any different than the old map, maybe except for around the Byron Airport. But they've given us a little inset there so you can see what that looks like. So that is my presentation. We're currently working with legal on what the cities will need to do once the county's ULL is extended, assuming that happens in June, because each of the 16 cities I mentioned do adopt that urban limit line. So we'll make sure we are equipped to advise the cities of anything they need to do to maintain consistency with that new urban limit line. But I'll remind you that the recommendation tonight is to issue that annual ULL policy advisory letter. But I can take any questions on that or the county's measure, but we do have 3 experts in the room that could probably help me out.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any comments or questions from the authority board?
I would make a small comment to thank the county for all their work on making this adjustment. This used to be a very politically charged. It's well thought out, and I absolutely support to send the letter out and get everybody's response.
Any other comments? Is there any public comments?
We have not received any public comment.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
First and second. Terry Ann, could you conduct roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Arnrich?
Aye.
Commissioner Bernal?
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes?
Commissioner Obringer?
Yes.
Commissioner Altstupper?
Yes.
Commissioner Xavier?
Hi.
Vice Chair G?
Yes.
Chair Meadows?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Terry Ann. That concludes our regular calendar items. Item 8, correspondence and communications. We have no correspondence in this agenda packet. Item 9, associated committee reports. The next item is associated committee reports. We have meeting reports in the agenda packet from 3 of the RTPCs. Item 10, authority board and staff comments. Chair's comments. I want to thank Commissioner Brunel for serving on CCTA. This is unfortunately his last meeting with us, but thank you. I have no other comments at this time.
May I say something? Or is it not my turn?
Item 10A, Commissioners and ex officio representatives, comments and reports on activities and meetings. Commissioner Brunel.
All right, thank you. I'd just like to say it's been a pleasure to work with the board. I worked for so many years on the other side of the construction part of it, and hundreds of millions of dollars spent in East Contra Costa County and seeing how that worked. And so being here with you all as a policymaker has been really eye-opening, and this is really important work. And I have a new appreciation for what we need to do to make sure that we're successful moving forward as CCTA. Also, just want to say, super impressed with Tim and with the team that he has here. I mean, it's A+ level, the reports, the expertise, and so we're in really good hands in that regard, and super excited about that. And I also just want to say that love the new branding, and wish I would have stayed around long enough to get more swag, but have to try to get that off of some of you guys. But thank you very much for just letting me be a part of this.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. Commissioner Kelly.
Oh, we're at board comments, is that right? Yeah, so I just want to report on something. Last week, Candace Anderson and I were part of East Bay Economic Development Alliance tour of the Zoox manufacturing facility off Highway 92 down in Hayward. And it's in an old Gillig bus facility. Gillig moved out, went to Livermore, so Zoox took it over. It's pretty amazing. 200 to 300, maybe more 100 square feet. 1,000 square feet. It's huge, absolutely huge. Racks of all kinds of equipment. They have 21 stations where they can build the Zoox robotaxis with 65 people. There's robotic elements that will lift the heavy parts, and get this, they can build, when they're up and running completely, 5,000 to 10,000 robotaxis a year, one every 20 minutes, and that includes testing. So I was really, really impressed, and having ridden on one of the robotaxis in San Francisco this past November, it was just an amazing experience. So you all can sign up to go and take a test ride for free in San Francisco. Go to the Zoox site. And I talked to the government affairs people a little bit, and one of the things I said was, maybe in years to come, as they ramp up, there might be opportunities for public agencies to partner with them or contract with them or use a license to bring something to their areas, geofenced for first mile, last mile, to try and solve some of the transportation problems that we have here. So stay tuned.
Commissioner Stepper.
So.
Never mind. Any other commissioner comments? You're a representative.
We're waiting for representatives.
I thought you'd already been, I thought you'd already been making comments the whole meeting. Any comments from representatives? Representative Rent?
All right. Thank you. It's great to be here. Good to be back. Alternate ex officio board of director person, not right here. I am running out of titles there, but I'm happy to be here.
Mayor Emeritus.
Mayor Emeritus of Pleasant Hill with these two knuckleheads over here. But anyways, it's an honor to be here, and good things are happening at BART. Just wanted to share as we close out 2025. We installed all the new fare gates. Last thing we did was implement the Tap to Ride, which is turning out to be a great success. Anytime you roll out a massive software upgrade like that, there's a couple little hiccups, but we've kind of worked through most of those. We have a few reiterations coming down the road, and what that is for those who may not know, you not necessarily need a Clipper card anymore. You can just, if you're flying into SFO or Oakland or something, you can just tap a credit card, jump on BART, jump off, tap it, and get out of the system. So a lot more convenient for people. We're about a 13% tap ratio right now on those. So we're really excited about that. And then yesterday, many of you saw the announcement that BART has done a pilot program with Uber, and we're in negotiations with other TNC carriers. So those that want to vote for their favorite TNC carrier. There are discussions about those, but this pilot program, through the BART app, you will be able to coordinate an Uber pickup or delivery to the station, and it's all coordinated timing of the trains. The technology behind it, part applicable to Contra Costa County, is BART is offering a $5 discount at the Antioch Concord Station, Walnut Creek, and Richmond for those stations.
That's the new station.
The new sta- the one I represent half of. I'm just kidding.
Do you mean, yeah.
And Concord Station.
Antioch.
All
Okay,
those.
'cause
all
we have
those-
two, okay,
Okay,
from
those four. I'm
Concord
sorry.
to
I should have
Antioch?
paused and inserted the comma. I was just so excited to talk. I just rambled. So. And then also on that, through the BART app, if you've ever used the trip planner feature, it continues to include walking, biking options, as well as other transit bike share, scooter share options for getting to and from BART stations. Riders can also customize preferences such as walking, biking speeds, or planning their trips. To enhance regional transit coordination, BART's trip planner includes schedules for regional rail services such as Caltrain, Capital Corridor, ACE, as well as buses, ferries, and even cable cars. So just wanted to let you know we are continuing to innovate and drive transportation.
Thank you, Representative Rand.
Thank you for your time.
Before we move on to Representative Noack, I'm just glad to see you all from Pleasant Hill get along so well. You like each other so much.
It's actually posted on Facebook already.
He did call them
I believe
knuckleheads,
it is
though.
already posted on Facebook, I believe you.
Or it didn't happen.
It did already happen, yeah.
Representative Noack?
Yeah, thank you. I'm one of the three knuckleheads from Pleasant Hill. Still on Pleasant Hill. You two left. Okay. Yeah, MTC, sorry, switching hats. For those of you that are interested in the TOC policy item, part of it will come up next week on Wednesday, and then the second half will come in February. First half being the allocation of the money between the county and the region, and how the SB 125, $100 million that has to come out of that money is being split. And then monies that might be set aside for a TOC incentive program. That piece is going to be voted on next week. And then the following month, it will be more details of changes to the TOC policy as it stands currently. So a lot of cities are concerned about this, but a lot of things will get squared away and voted on this month and next month on the TOC. And that's probably about it. You don't need to hear, one other thing. Signatures are starting to be gathered for the Citizens Initiative. Kickoff is on Friday at Pleasant Hill BART. I understand there are people, according to Rita. Rita saw them today. They're on BART getting signatures, but the big kickoff is on Friday at 5 different locations. Pleasant Hill BART is the Contra Costa location. And that's at 12:30 on Friday, right? Yeah. Okay.
Tim, please provide your report.
Thank you very much, Chair Meadows and everyone. Just my report's actually very short tonight. Couple things in terms of housekeeping. So one of the things I want to kind of get your attention on is we did change our domain. So if you might be noticing, we're now ccta.ca.gov, and we moved away from ccda.net. So when you look at our website, it is now ccta.ca.gov. We did that on purpose, intentionally, because it obviously better aligns with our mission and purpose in terms of being a government agency. It's easier to find now CCTA, on the internet when people are searching, et cetera. And so it was a very kind of important change to kind of support, our identity in the digital world in terms of how people find us and search in this new world. So we supported that change. All the email addresses have been changed. Our website's been changed, et cetera. So just want to bring that to everyone's attention, kind of a little bit of a housekeeping item. And then some of the exciting things that have kind of happened since the holidays, Ryan and team have worked really hard on this broadband grant. And so I sent an email to all of you, but we were successful in terms of getting the $15 million from the California Public Utility Commission for the two broadband, both the East County and the West County projects, and it's a very long, drawn-out process. I think we must have amended the application like 16, 17, 18 times, because the way CPUC approaches it is they put it out for public review, and then the other existing telecom companies are actually able to review and provide comment and protest, because it's competition essentially. And so so the project, based on what we submitted and what actually got awarded, there were some tweaks along the way, but generally the program is basically focused on providing underserved communities in East County and in West County. And when we talk about underserved, these are folks that have, less than, I think 100 megabytes. I think, right, Ryan? 100 megabytes? So these are people that have less than 100 megabytes of internet access. That's what underserved is like kind of defined as. So we're excited to get that grant. We're officially in the broadband business, and so we believe we're moving to procurement and working with the county and working with those cities and those jurisdictions and initiating and implementing that project. The second award that we got was a Safe Streets for All grant. And I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about this in terms of DC and kind of the lay of the land, but Safe Streets for All is interesting. It's always been like a bike pedestrian safety program, and this administration has been obviously realigning and kind of resetting priorities for a lot of these discretionary grant programs. And we actually were awarded an autonomous vehicle communications grant out of this SS4A grant. It's for about just over $3 million. And the purpose of the grant is to really just do a pilot to communicate to emergency vehicles with autonomous and connected vehicles. So really kind of working towards some of the challenges that Waymo and Cruise have had in San Francisco with emergency vehicles. And so what the project does is, once there is an incident identified, whether it be on a highway or a fire, the system automatically puts a geofence around that location and communicates that to all the connected autonomous vehicles. So that way all the connected autonomous vehicles know there's an emergency incident occurring, at this location. The next thing is, once a vehicle's dispatched, police, sheriff, fire, we put a moving geofence on it, and basically the connected autonomous vehicles know where that emergency vehicle is in the network being dispatched to the incident. And so this has never been done before. When we were in DC last week for Transportation Research Board, there was an extreme amount of buzz around this grant. I specifically had emails from the Secretary office saying that we want to be briefed on this grant when you come to DC next week. And so, so we were very excited about this award. And I will tell you, in these meetings in DC, both on the policy side, which we met with Lauren Smith, as well on the research side, we met with Lee White. On both sides of the house, there's a tremendous amount of interest with autonomous vehicles and autonomous shuttles. When you look at the leadership there, based with Jonathan Morrison, he came from Apple. Seville Oz came from, she came from Silicon Valley. Lee White came from Too Simple, which is a freight autonomous vehicle company. So there's a lot of expertise in the Secretary's office right now that have autonomous vehicle background. And they are very focused on how to scale and deploy, not just Waymo, but very focused on how to scale and deploy these autonomous shuttles to really support public transit and public transportation. So there was a lot of discussions and a lot of questions on our automated driving system grant, because we did the deployment in Rossmore and Bishop Branch, as well as with County Connection on the May Mobility Project. And there was a lot of interest in terms of how those projects were deployed, what did we learn from them, and how do we plan to scale. So we did learn in terms of like future discretionary grant programs, there will be set-asides and focus programs directed towards autonomous and connected vehicles. The SMART program is going to be coming out. That's going to have an autonomous vehicle set aside in it. And then also Build is also out now, which has an autonomous vehicle component. And then the other one is Attain, which will also have a technology autonomous vehicle component. So as you are very aware, obviously we're very well positioned. We are very much considered a leader in this space. I mean, we were able to meet most of everyone in the Secretary's office in DC, and that was very intentional. Number one, we talked about the mega grant, and all signs were positive on the mega grant from the Secretary's office. And then number two, we talked about future grant opportunities, and we wanted to learn more about their priorities, which I've kind of have described to you. So interesting enough, they wanted a shuttle so bad, they deployed one in Washington, DC. And it's the first one in DC ever. And interesting enough, they're actually doing it with one of our partners, with Beep, as well as Carson and Attestec, which is the EGES. And we had the EGES at Gomentum Station about 3 or 4 months ago. It's a small little minibus. And so anyway, so it's interesting that they're, learning from the partners that we've been working with relative to the projects that we've been doing. So there's a lot of interest there. The team was in strong force at TRB. Lindy gave a poster session. Danielle was on an AI panel, and we attended numerous sessions. Obviously, lots of networking, very, very valuable, an intense 4 days in DC in terms of, kind of really continuing to elevate CCTA's presence there with the new administration. Really quick on the other side of the house here. The other thing I wanted to kind of talk about is, speaking about innovation, is the Redefining Mobility Summit. So I know you should have gotten calendar invites. So that has been save the date for June 16th, as well as a demonstration day on June 17th. And for those of you that are interested and willing to participate, I encourage you to set aside time throughout the entire week, and I'll explain why. We have a delegation coming from the Netherlands for that entire week. And the state of California and CCTA are hosting that mission. So we will have the equivalent of the governor from the province of North Holland, which is called the King's Commissioner, as well as the Secretary of Transportation from the province of North Holland, as well as 35 of his other partners and colleagues coming to Contra Costa County. And the entire program is focused around air mobility. And so there will be, Monday will be hosted in Sacramento with governor's office and policymakers from the governor's office around this topic and also around smart mobility. And the Netherlands call it's air mobility and smart mobility. So still autonomous, connected, intelligent transportation system, et cetera. Tuesday is RMS. Wednesday is a demo day. The demo day is going to include Byron Airport. And we're going to be seeing demonstrations from Elroy Air as well as Mighty Fly. And then we're going to be going all the way out to Richmond to go see Glideways. And then Thursday is going to be a demonstration by NASA down in Mountain View as part of the overall tour. And then Friday, we're going to Monterey to the Drone Automation Research Technology to see Joby in action down there on Friday. So obviously, all of that is open to all of you, and I've asked staff to make sure we get this on everyone's calendars and holds, et cetera, to make sure that if you want to participate, you're welcome to participate in any way that you want. And because of air mobility, we are considering moving RMS to Concord. And so we're going to be having the summit in Concord, and we're kind of looking at venues and trying. So we will confirm that with all of you. And it's also the demonstration zone will be potentially at Buchanan Airport. And the idea is to kind of really showcase what we're doing with airports and everything in Contra Costa County, since it'll be like an air mobility mission. And the important thing about this is that you're going to have very high representatives from the state of California coming. So you'll have folks from the governor's office, you'll have folks from Caltrans and the California Secretary of Transportation's office, as well as people from the Bay Area, et cetera. So it's going to be a really great week, great event, showcasing Contra Costa County and all the innovations happening in Contra Costa County. So we'll get all that information out to everyone. So I think that was everything on my list. Last thing, sorry. So just want to confirm, it's in the staff report or the executive director's report, but December 31st, the Maine Mobility Project has come to an end. So we are not operating autonomous shuttles right now. They're all done and complete. So we are in the program evaluation mode, collecting data. And so we will bring back to the board sometime in the spring, a whole overview in terms of the goals, the data, what we've learned, and all those things, in terms of also what we're hearing from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and recapping a lot of what we heard in DC, and really kind of showing how we're kind of targeting for the future around the autonomous vehicles and how to scale and deploy in Contra Costa County. So that'll be a presentation coming. So that's it. Thank you, Chair
Thank you,
Meadows.
Tim. Item 11, calendar. The calendars were included in the packet. Item 12, adjournment. That concludes our meeting. This meeting is adjourned at 7:42 PM until the next meeting on February